from 10,000 Judas money to a man who owned half of Vice City. GTA villains either died broke or got destroyed trying. This is every GTA villain ranked by how badly they wrecked everything. Massimo Torini spent years climbing the Sicilian mafia ladder, calculated murders, backroom deals, hands-on work, then quietly ran a hotel in Italy like a retired accountant. The Cosa Nostra sent him personally to seize all of Liberty City, all of it. He brokered, he schemed, he positioned himself at the top of organized crime's most ambitious takeover attempt. Then Tony Cipriani blew up his helicopter. 0 memorable lines, skipped entirely by casual players. Came for a city, left in pieces. D tier. Catalina shoots Claude during a bank heist, takes the cash, and leaves him bleeding in the dirt. That's not a betrayal, that's a Tuesday for her. She's the reason GTA 3's entire revenge plot exists. One selfish, impulsive decision, and Claude spends the whole game working his way back to her throat. And she somehow manages to span 2 games. San Andreas establishes her as CJ's unhinged ex-girlfriend before she resurfaces as GTA 3's final villain, a chaotic through line held together entirely by her own ego. The thing is, by San Andreas, she's more exhausting than terrifying. Screaming, erratic, impossible to take seriously. She launched a franchise-defining revenge story, then revealed she was basically just a really loud inconvenience the whole time. C tier. Billy Gray called himself a Brotherhood president. Iron loyalty, no snitching, 1%er for life. Then the LSPD knocked on the door. Gray was president of the Lost Motorcycle Club's Liberty City chapter, a gang built entirely on the religion of loyalty. He preached it like gospel, wore the patch, ran the meetings, demanded every member bleed for the club before they'd even think about walking away. Then, the moment real legal pressure landed, he ratted out his entire MC to save himself. His own brothers, the people who lived and died by the code he wrote. I'm the president of the Lost MC, and I make the rules around here. Sure, Billy, you made the rules. Then you broke every single one of them the second things got uncomfortable. B tier. Donald Love ran Liberty City's largest media empire. Newspapers, television, the whole machine, out of a penthouse while casually ordering street massacres to tank property values. The thing is, he didn't do it out of rage or revenge. He hired Claude to ignite gang wars between the Colombians and the Triads purely as a real estate play. Bodies hit the pavement so Donald could buy the blocks cheap. Mass death as a market correction. He treated human casualties like a zoning variance. He owned entire city blocks, operated with billionaire impunity, and then, when everything went sideways, simply vanished. No final boss fight, just gone. The smell of a freshly opened corpse is something to savor. Somehow, that's the most on-brand exit a man like this could have made. C tier. Darko Brevic sold out his own 10-man Bosnian squad. Men Niko Bellic trusted with his life. For $1,000 a head. 10 soldiers. 10,000 total. What a used Toyota Corolla cost in 2008. Niko crossed the entire Atlantic, built a criminal career in Liberty City, and burned through countless people chasing this man. He expected a monster. He found a hollow, drug-addled wreck who'd already destroyed himself more thoroughly than any revenge could. By the time Niko corners Darko in 2008, the guy isn't running a cartel or commanding an army. He's barely standing, mentally shattered, addicted, broken by the knowledge that everyone he sold out is dead and his own life still somehow got worse. I needed the money. 10 lives, $10,000. That's all it costs to become the most personal villain in GTA history, a man so pathetic that killing him barely feels like justice. He wrecked Niko's entire world for less than a semester of community college. A tier. Now, Eddie Lowe. Most GTA villains want your money, your territory, or your life as a business decision. Eddie Lowe just wants to tell you about it afterward. He's not a cartel boss and not running a crew. He's a Liberty City resident who picks up hitchhikers for sport, and Nico stumbles across him completely by accident, twice. Two random roadside encounters where Eddie casually describes dismembering people the way someone describes a commute. I like to watch things suffer. It's beautiful, you know? No plot-relevant grudge, just a cheerful serial killer tucked inside a side mission most players nearly miss. And somehow, that makes him scarier than every gang lord above him on this list. Rockstar hid genuine psychological horror inside a sandbox and barely advertised it. C tier. Avery Carrington built his Texas real estate empire by teaching one simple rule: find leverage, use it, then discard whoever handed it to you. He mentored Tommy through Vice City's property wars, displacement tactics, corporate sabotage, rival elimination, practically wrote the playbook out loud. The secret to real estate is other people's misery. And Tommy took notes, every single one, then used them directly on Avery himself, had him killed, and absorbed the whole operation. The professor got outgraded by his own curriculum. C tier. Frank Tenpenny didn't need a gun to destroy CJ's life. He had something better, a badge. Tenpenny is LSPD's finest, which is the most sarcastic sentence in this entire video. From the moment CJ lands back in Los Santos in 1992, Tenpenny is already waiting at the airport. He plants a murdered cop's evidence on CJ, pockets the leverage, and then, quietly, methodically, spends the entire game using it. We own you, fool. We got your nuts in a vice. And he means it. He blackmails CJ into doing LSPD's dirty work across multiple cities. He murders a witness, Officer Pendlebury, in front of CJ and uses that as a second leash. He systematically burns down every ally, safe relationship, every piece of support CJ rebuilt after 5 years away. Sweet ends up in prison. The Grove Street crew collapses. CJ can't move without Tenpenny's permission. The thing is, gangs announce themselves. Tenpenny wore institutional protection the whole time. Every murder laundered through a badge, every threat backed by the entire LSPD framework. He didn't wreck CJ's life dramatically. He administered it quietly and methodically. A corrupt cop who weaponized the system so completely that CJ technically worked for his own oppressor for most of the story. S tier. Devin Weston walks into GTA V as a $3 billion venture capitalist with a Malibu estate, a private Merryweather security contract, and the audacity of someone who's never faced a consequence in his life. He hires Michael, Trevor, and Franklin to steal 5 exotic cars worth millions combined, dangles payment like a carrot, and then, obviously, just doesn't pay. That part alone would be annoying. But Devin doesn't stop there. When Michael gets in his way over a movie deal, Devin sends a full Merryweather kill squad to murder Michael's family. Not Michael, his family, wife, kids, the house, corporate restructuring basically. He gets away with it for a shockingly long time because when you're worth $3 billion, attempted murder is just a line item in the quarterly review. Then the crew stuffs him in a car trunk and rolls it off a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. That's the end of Devin Weston. He didn't fight back, he just screamed. Billionaire to cliff bound in one afternoon. C tier. Stretch was a Grove Street OG, childhood crew, shared history, the whole thing. And then he became a ballast informant while sitting in prison, feeding setups to the people CJ trusted most. He orchestrates multiple hits on Grove Street from behind bars. The first day CJ returns to Los Santos, Stretch's positioning nearly gets him killed at a funeral. Then Sweet, CJ's actual brother, ends up locked away partly because of Stretch's inside work dismantling the crew piece by piece. The thing is, Tenpenny had a badge. Big Smoke had ambition, Stretch had neither. He just had access, and he burned it for ballast favor from a prison cell. This inn set us up. No ideology. Just pure petty betrayal dressed up as loyalty. A D tier. Ray Bulgarin ran one of Liberty City's most dangerous criminal networks and somehow still had time to make Luis Lopez's life personally miserable over a debt from years before the game even starts. He controls smuggling routes, armed enforcers, and enough firepower to qualify as a small government. He sells Tony Prince to human traffickers. Then, across GTA 4, Ballad of Gay Tony, he hunts Luis across the entire city like a man with nothing else on his calendar. The thing is, the original debt wasn't even settled in bad faith. Bulgarin just decided it was, declared himself owed, and escalated to attempted murder. You think you can steal from me and live? Obsessive. Well-funded. Personally shows up to finish the job. C tier. Gerald runs missions out of Grove Street like he's doing you a favor, which sounds generous until you check the payout. He sends you into cartel stash houses, gang-controlled blocks, and multi-crew shootouts for a few $100s and zero backup. He has never, apparently, set foot anywhere near the actual danger. He texts you objectives from a safe location and collects the results like a middle manager who discovered drug money. The man monetized other people's near-death experiences before influencer culture made that mainstream. D tier. Ricardo Diaz ran half of Vice City before Tommy Vercetti had a single dollar to his name. He controlled the South Side's drug supply, owned a sprawling mansion on Starfish Island, and kept a gunboat fleet patrolling the waterways like a man who genuinely believed consequences didn't apply to him. Then he ordered the Vance brothers' ambush at the airport, stole Tommy's entire cocaine shipment, and accidentally made himself the most wanted man in one very angry mobster city. The thing is, Diaz wasn't even hiding it. He was loud, paranoid, and throwing televisions across his mansion while his guards ran security like a full military operation. He had the money, the weapons, and the real estate to back the attitude up. You come to my house, eat my food, drink my liquor, then you betray me? Tommy eventually walked through the front door with an Uzi and fixed the whole problem in about 4 minutes. Diaz spent years building an empire. It lasted exactly as long as Tommy needed to find a decent weapon. B tier. Martin Madrazo runs a cartel empire out of a ranch in Blaine County, and somehow the most dangerous thing he ever did was hand Michael DeSanta a bill. Here's what happened. Michael and Trevor accidentally clipped his house during a chase, completely collateral, and Madrazo used that single incident to lock both protagonists into unpaid cartel work through sheer force of reputation. A $2.7 million debt, no negotiation, no timeline. Just compliance. And the thing is, Michael and Trevor are genuinely terrifying people. They robbed Merriweather. They leveled buildings. Yet this man in a linen shirt had both of them running errands like frightened nephews. Trevor eventually kidnapped Madrazo's wife just to feel something, which is honestly a reasonable response. You will work for me until I say you are done. The leash wasn't guns, it was paperwork. C tier. Sonny Forelli bankrolled Tommy Vercetti's Vice City drug deal, watched it get robbed, then had the audacity to demand every dollar back, with interest, on a setup he personally arranged. Here's the thing, Sonny ran the Forelli crime family out of Miami, was powerful enough to exile Tommy to Vice City for 15 years after a massacre, and still convinced himself the double cross was Tommy's problem to fix. He orchestrated the ambush through Ricardo Diaz, kept his hands clean, then arrived at the end of the game demanding repayment like a landlord collecting late fees. Tommy spent the entire game building an empire, the Malibu Club, the print works, the drug routes, the real estate, specifically to pay back a debt he never actually owed. You took my money, my drugs, and you killed my men. He said this about a robbery he ordered. And Tommy, to his eternal credit, shot him in his own mansion. Sonny didn't wreck Tommy's life accidentally, he did it on purpose, then billed him for it. B tier. Steve Haynes ran a nationally televised FIB counterterrorism show, held the title of deputy director, and had the full weight of federal prosecution in his back pocket. He used every bit of it to turn 3 career criminals into unpaid government contractors. He blackmailed Michael, Trevor, and Franklin simultaneously, not one at a time, but all three at once, coercing them through a string of black ops jobs involving prison breaks, military hardware theft, and foreign intelligence extraction. Jobs the Fib couldn't officially touch, jobs that, if anything went wrong, would land entirely on the trio with zero institutional cover. The thing is, Haynes wasn't even fighting real terrorists. He was fighting internal FIB rivals. The whole operation was interagency political warfare dressed up as national security. "You work for me now." He said that to three of the most dangerous men in Los Santos, and for a significant stretch of the story, he was completely right. He ends up getting shot on live television, which is the kind of performance review most government employees don't survive. B tier. Dmitry Rascalov is the only villain on this list whose damage to the protagonist is literally decided by the player, which somehow makes it worse either way. Nico worked alongside Dmitry early in GTA 4, helped him settle a debt with Mikhail Faustin, and treated the partnership as solid ground. Dmitry then sold Nico to his enemies within the same mission arc, forced him underground, and spent the rest of the game running a slow, methodical campaign of destruction against everything Nico had quietly built in Liberty City. Then comes the ending. Rockstar gave players a choice: complete a deal with Dmitry and take the money, or chase him down for revenge. If you deal, Dmitry has Roman's wife shot dead at their wedding. If you chase revenge, Dmitry has Kate McRae shot dead instead. One villain, two murders, zero way to save both. I'm a survivor, Nico. He really did say that about himself, unironically, while orchestrating a wedding massacre. The thing is, Dmitry didn't just betray Nico once. He engineered a second betrayal after players thought the first one was settled. The damage scales with your choices, and neither outcome lets Nico win cleanly. The only GTA villain who makes the player feel personally responsible for the body count. A tier. Big Smoke ordered a 2-piece and a soda during a drive-by ambush on CJ's mother. That detail alone tells you everything. Here's what makes Smoke genuinely devastating as a villain. He wasn't an outside threat. He was Melvin Harris, Grove Street OG, CJ's childhood best friend, a man who gave funeral speeches while secretly funding the ballast who pulled the trigger. The Grove Street collapse? That's his invoice. Sweet getting shot and imprisoned? His doing. CJ getting exiled to Liberty City on day one of the story? Smoke cleared the board himself and then hugged CJ at their mom's funeral. The thing is, Rockstar hid him in plain sight for the entire game. Big Smoke drives CJ away from the ambush scene. He attends the funeral. He gives loyalty speeches. He does all the friend things while quietly watching the gang he bankrolled dismantle everything CJ loved. "I always knew you was born to play second fiddle." That line hits different once you know who's been conducting the whole time. When the truth lands, it doesn't feel like a plot twist. It feels like a gut punch from someone you trusted. No other GTA villain gets that close. The damage wasn't loud. It was personal, slow, and completely irreversible. S tier. From Big Smoke's slow personal demolition, we slide into something colder. The Zaibatsu Corporation in GTA 2 doesn't betray Claude Speed. It doesn't even know his name. It just owns half of Anywhere City's criminal infrastructure and quietly deploys corporate muscle the moment he becomes inconvenient. No grudge, no speech, just resources. Rockstar built an entire satire of unchecked capitalism around a villain that runs its hit squads like quarterly performance reviews. The prototype, all business, no face, somehow the scariest model. B tier. Now a villain you can actually see. Hernan Fortuna is a Los Santos cartel lieutenant sitting on Cayo Perico Island, guarding somewhere between 4 million and 5 million worth of heist take. He's not destroying your family or burning your neighborhood. He's just standing between you and the money. Rockstar skipped the personal trauma entirely and made the antagonist's vault the whole motivation. He doesn't wreck your life. He just owns the thing you want. D tier. Trevor Phillips, technically a protagonist, practically a human wrecking ball aimed at everyone around him. He shoots Brad Snyder dead in the opening heist and spends the next 10 years letting Michael believe Brad was rotting in prison. That's not a side conflict, that's the foundational lie GTA V's entire story collapses into. Then he kidnaps Patricia Madrazo, a cartel boss's wife, which somehow makes Martin Madrazo's $2.7 million debt feel like a noise complaint by comparison. Every alliance Michael carefully assembles, Trevor destabilizes purely through existing. And the thing is, he can't even be called the villain. Rockstar made him playable. "You're doing this, you're the chaos. I am a free man." He says that, without irony, while the bodies stack up behind him across the Alamo Sea and sandy shores. He runs Trevor Phillips Industries, which sounds like a legitimate business and is obviously a meth empire sitting on stolen military hardware. He doesn't wreck the protagonist's life from outside, he is the protagonist. That's somehow worse. S tier. Pulaski and Hernandez never ran anything. They just stood behind Tenpenny's badge and let the institution do the heavy lifting. But that's exactly what made them dangerous. Pulaski personally executed Ralph Pendlebury, CJ's mentor and the one witness who could have dismantled Tenpenny's entire operation, then handed CJ the shovel to bury the body. That's not villainy, that's paperwork. Hernandez, meanwhile, apparently developed a conscience, which in Tenpenny's orbit is a terminal condition. Neither of them would have been anything alone. Pulaski was a smirking enforcer. Hernandez was a regret with a badge. Together they gave institutional corruption its muscle and its alibi simultaneously. One dirty cop is a problem. Two is a conspiracy with shift rotations. They framed Grove Street, buried the evidence, and clocked out. A tier. Subscribe to the channel for more tier lists like this. We're done here.